Welcome back, everybody. I know you've just been dying for another video today because I haven't uploaded enough. I think 4, maybe 5. My joke, my personal joke. You know, I realize I upload a lot of videos and it's funny because from the outside it might seem like I spend a lot of time making them, but it's kind of like I break away from what I'm doing because I have this thought and I record it and I upload it really quick. I'll come back later and it's really helped me in my life to bounce my ideas off of other people. I've heard a lot of people saying they can't meet people that are like-minded, and I totally understand that feeling. And I met a lot of people that are more like-minded online. It's unfortunate that I don't know them in person and that I can't look them in the eye, but you know, it gives me hope for humanity, I guess. And I was thinking about ancient times and how I was reading this book by Confucius, and I wanted to read some parts out of that. I'll have to grab it in a bit, but they were talking about Confucius and all the funny ideas that he had in his time. And he was kind of like a Zen, you know, a Zen Buddhist, if you will. Perhaps one of the first, if not the first. I'm not sure of the details if Zen Buddhism existed at that time yet, but he'd make fun of life and make it interesting and ask the big questions in small ways. And I think we all need to step back and do that. We're asking for far too detailed of an answer. Like, you know, somebody might say, "What is heaven?" And somebody would, and the master would reply, you know, does a frog have a tongue? You know, something like that, and you'd have to think about it. I picked up this book the other day. I believe strongly in synchronicities, and I was at Goodwill and I like to look through the old books, and I've got stacks of old books. Actually, I picked this one up, well, I'll show it to you later. It's propping up my camera. It's called The Story of Our Time, and it's like a set of encyclopedia kind of from each year in the 50s. And I like looking at old literature because it tells me what was important to people at the time. This book I found randomly in a pile. I mean, it was, to see a book like this, I never look for bindings like that. It looks like a school book. It's called Enduring Issues in Philosophy. And it very well may be the most important book that I've ever bought for $2. $1.99. What it does is, it introduces, well, I'll just read the back the way it says. It says, the Enduring Issues series introduces the reader to the major controversies in several academic disciplines, such as psychology, sociology, philosophy, religion, and criminology. Part of the critically acclaimed Opposing Viewpoints series, the books of the Enduring Issues series use the most relevant and controversial source materials to illuminate each debate. By presenting opposing views on these topics, the Enduring Issues series supplements and enhances textbook material, allowing readers to become involved in the past and present debates that continue to challenge the best thinkers in the social sciences and the humanities. So what it does is it makes a statement, various statements, and then it puts the answers to those statements as two opposing viewpoints. One might be like a statement that blue is a beautiful color, and then it would, you know. So I'm going to read the contents really quick just so you can see the chapter 1 is called What Can We Know? And this one's great because the first thing it tackles is all knowledge is gained through reason, is the first statement. So all knowledge is gained through reason, and that's a big one, you know. And it goes on to talk about Descartes and it bases it on his philosophy. The next one is all knowledge is gained through the senses, and that's a section on John Locke. The next one is called Intuition Gives Us Knowledge. The next one is called The Scientific Method Gives Us Knowledge. And then the final one is called There is Knowledge That Humans Cannot Know. I think most people would agree that final one is true, but I think there are some people who do believe that humans can know all. So, I mean, these is a way of tackling that. Now, chapter 2 is called What is Ultimately Real? The first one is ideas are ultimately real. The second one is matter, including the mind, is real. The third one is minds are immaterial. And it goes on and on and on. And chapter 3 is Does God Exist? Chapter 4 is What is Morality? And chapter 5 is How are Governments Constituted? And the part that Does God Exist is very interesting to me because I flipped to a chapter by C.S. Lewis by random chance in this book. And it was 10 minutes after I'd been looking at a C.S. Lewis book. It's called Mere Christianity. It's a good book. A Christian gave it to me and told me to read it. I did. But the does God exist section has the first question that it poses is, God must exist because the world exists. The second one is, God necessarily exists. The third one is, evil proves that God cannot be all good, which is one that people always use against religion. Number 4, evil is compatible with a good God, which would be the opposite end of that. Number 5, the world was designed by a higher being. Number 6, God is not the designer of the world. Or number 7, faith proves God's existence to the believer. And all of these different philosophies have been enduring through the history of mankind. I mean, these are issues that I hear people say that they have an opinion on, and everyone seems to have an opinion on, but they've never been resolved for the whole of humanity to agree to one direction or another. It's like the old free will debate. You know, do we have free will or not? That's an argument that can never be determined. Free will and determinism actually is the root name of the philosophy. But do we have free will and determinism? Is determinism true? These are questions we can't answer. And these big questions in this book are the questions that I don't think we can answer either. But by looking at both sides of the viewpoint, we can at least have a rational discussion and say, this is the best argument for this, and this is the best argument against this. And if you read it and you have a better argument, then that's fine. But at least understanding what other people have said and posed. Because the philosophers of ancient times, all the way up until even the 16th, 17th centuries, some of them were really amazing thinkers, had some great ideas. But every one of them had some fault, just like we do. They all, people did crazy stuff. I heard this story about Newton. He stared at the sun until he went blind, and then locked himself in a room for 3 days until he gained his sight back, just because he wanted to study the eyes. He took a needle, he poked it through his eyeball all the way to the back of his eye, and pushed on the rods just to see what it would do. Just, people did some crazy stuff in the name of science, and I feel like we owe it to these people to say, hey, you put forth the effort, I give you that respect, and not just the discoveries. See, the people who made discoveries are always recognized as these great people. Look at, he invented this, he invented this. The inventors of thinking and reason rarely get the credit that they deserve. Philosophers have been some of the most persecuted people in history because they make people think about shit that they don't want to think about. That's not always been the reason, but for Socrates that was the reason. He was corrupting the youth of Athens, so he was forced to pay a fine, and he refused, so he drank the hemlock and died. He took death as the easier path than conflicting with his values or integrity. And that to me is either very stupid because he's killing himself, or very smart because he's preserving that moment of integrity for the future generations to see and say, this person dedicated their life to truth and then was willing to sacrifice themselves rather than sacrifice that truth. And two viewpoints could be put on that. One side could say it's a great thing, another side could say it's not. So all these views I think are just awesome to discuss with people. The questions about God, the questions about value, society, government is a big one. That one gets left out a lot. I believe that government has its place. I do, and I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I'd love to see a world where we didn't need government, but that would mean that everyone would have to equally think and contribute to the structure that we all adhere to, because there's always going to be corruption. People will always want to take more, and somebody will have to be there to stop them. In a small community, we can deal with those things, but in the world we have now, we need a government. So it goes back and forth with these debates and arguments. A good philosophical debate should not be an argument, although the word argument is a philosophical debate. But the idea of an argument is to arrive at a conclusion or a resolution where both sides can either walk away in disagreement or where one side says, you were right. And it seems like most of the debates these days there's no person trying to let their will down to admit they were wrong. People are so busy trying to prove they're right that they often miss when a person makes a really good point. So I go back and I think about what people say to me. I think about the things that are really important to people. Now, I can't just dismiss millions of people who believe one thing just because I think that they're wrong. And that's not right. Nor is it right for them to dismiss me because I'm wrong. So we debate the issues and we bring forth rational questions. Like one of the questions that it posed in that the faith part, when it was talking, because I flipped open to a random chapter and it was said that faith proves that there's a God, and it said that one of the strangest parts of Christianity is how built into the religion itself they tell their members that you are going to have people who are going to tell you that you are incorrect, and then they tell you ways to deal with those people by having faith. And to me, that's already lost the argument, because if you're having an argument built on rational discussion that's based on evidence, then you can't really provide that evidence. So you go in that circle of, I have faith because I know it's true, and I know it's true because I have faith, and nothing gets resolved. But these are questions that I'm still willing to talk with people about, because I'm not trying to prove that they're wrong or that I'm right, but rather that maybe we can all learn something from each other. But these debates are nothing new. There's no super intelligent person today who's going to make it all right and who has all the answers. That's not how it works. Long gone are the days when we can roam the hillsides and the old villages and think while we're out in the woods and work in the fields. We have to make time to learn now, especially if you're not in school anymore. And the best way to learn is to observe what others have already learned and build on that, but without allowing that to affect what you believe. Don't take people's, opinions or values verbatim and take them as gospel for yourself. Look at the situation, observe it, and that's what I do. I don't know if it's right or wrong way. I sometimes wonder if maybe I would be better off just believing in something and just having faith and saying, screw it all right, I believe this and I'm happy now. But I know that'll never work for me. That's not the kind of person I am. So, say hi to Buddha. This is my Hotai, bro. Rub the belly for good luck. Namaste, everybody. I don't want to see any conflict in this world either, but I understand that argument is an essential part of our discovering process. It's how we learn. And people are learning much younger than they did in the past. Some of the wisdom that took, decades to attain, we can learn so quickly, but there's still that degree, a different type of wisdom that only comes with experience and age. So we can learn all we want, but until we learn to apply it and live it, then we're just talking. And I'm still working on walking my walk. But by talking the talk, at least it motivates me to want to walk that walk, if you know what I mean. You got to keep it on the top of your mind. Peace and love, everybody.